Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we are going to be looking at some of the new cards from Breakthrough. Check out the full set review if you haven't already. Today we are looking at one of the new archetypes to come out of Breakthrough, I think one of the only clear-cut archetypes that we can see straight off the bat, and that's going to be Magnezone with Raikou. Magnezone is a new Rain Dancer that we have in format, which is absolutely fantastic, and it's for lightning types. Raikou is not too shabby as well. He's a non-EX with decent HP and a pretty familiar attack. So let's jump into this deck and hope you enjoy. So we are playing a 3-1-3 line of the Magnezone. A couple of important points. This is by far the best Magnemite. It's a no-brainer. It has the ability called Sparkling Induction, and it has one colourless energy less in its retreat cost for every other Magnemite in play. So if you are unfortunate and do start with the Magnemite, you can search out another one quite simply, and then you get free retreat. So it's a nice little addition to Magnemite. Having these small little margins improve the deck quite a lot. So it's not the worst starter in the world because it's quite easy to search out Magnemites in this deck. But because we are playing, high Ultra Ball count, and we're also playing Bridget, so we can get multiples of these into play early. And then we do have the Magnezone, of course. Its ability is called Magnetic Circuit, and yeah, it's a Rain Dancer. What that means is we can attach as many lightning energy as we like during our turn to all of our Pokemon. So much like Inferno Fandango or Deluge that we've seen on previous cards, Blastoise and Emboar. So yeah, we're going to utilize this as best we can. It does have the attack as well, Thunder Blast, that does 100 for 2 lightning and a colourless, and you discard a lightning energy. It's good utility just to be aware of the attack. You rarely want to use it because we have preferable attackers, but it's just something to be aware of if we're really in a pinch. So yeah, that is the Magnezone. A 3-1-3 line I feel is appropriate for this sort of dude. Next up, our main attacker is Raikou, of which we play 3 of this dude. It's really awesome. 120 HP is nice for an EX. It gets even nicer when you consider its ability, called Shining Body, where if it has a lightning energy attached to it, any damage done to Raikou is reduced by 20. So it's like the old Boofer that we saw on Booferland, but you need to have energy attached. So essentially, this card has 140 to get one shot, and we're going to try and improve that tank ability as well with some other cards that we have. So making it almost as bulky as an EX Pokemon, but they only get one prize, which is pretty awesome. And even better yet, it has the attack Thunder Lance, and you'll all recognise this because it is 50 base damage and 20 more for each lightning energy attached to Raikou. So it is exactly the same as the old Keldeo, but this time for lightning energy, of course. And we all know that in Expanded, Keldeo, Blastoise was running around where it could just get crazy one-hit knockouts. In this build, we're being slightly more conservative, mainly because we don't have superior energy retrieval. So a lot of the time we're looking to just have that 3 energy requirement on us to start 2-hitting everything in our path, basically. Of course, being a variable damage output, if we need to extend for KOs, we can do so as well. So being aware of this is really awesome. Having the potentially unlimited damage cap as well means we can spring big KOs on things at any time. So Raikou, very, very fantastic main attacker, and we play 3 of him. We're also playing 1 Zapdos. I'm just playing the Zapdos out of fear of fighting types, namely Lucario is probably the most popular we have in Standard right now. So having a resistance to fighting as a lightning type is pretty handy. It was often played early on in the Manectric builds when people were worried about stuff like Landorus, so this is a slightly newer Zapdos, but it's basically the same concept. We're going to have resistance. We're going to use rough season stuff to try and make it difficult for the Lucario to start knocking us out. So that's quite nice. You're normally going to get a couple of attacks off, break some sashes, and start taking knockouts on Lucario and such. Its second attack, Raging Thunder, does 120, and you snipe 40 to yourself. Bit of a pain, that snipe, but normally it's manageable. So yeah, it's pretty decent just for that sort of matchup. I can easily see it being cut for a 4th Raikou just for added consistency. I'm just slightly concerned about the fighting matchup in general. It's not necessarily terrible, just getting one shot by Lucarios, because you still trade 2 for 2 in terms of you killing the X, you get 2 prizes. But it's kind of better if you can steal a few and not get knocked out. It also helps you like retain energy and stuff. So next up, you are playing, or we are playing, a 1-1 Octillery line. Octillery is another new one from the set. Back in the days of old Blastoise, I was a big fan of the old Blastoise deck. I like to play a 1-1 Electrode line, and basically we're copying that here. It seemed to work very well back then. And this time Abyss Hand gets you one more card, so you get to draw up to 5 during your turn once. And that's really helpful, especially because we like to use stuff like Fisherman for our supporter for turn. Octillery can keep our hands pretty fresh and keeping us drawing throughout the game without the need of supporters. That's very, very helpful. Just a 1-1 line, it's all we really have space for, but it's quite actually easy to get this guy out, even though it is a 1-1, because again, we have Bridget, and Bridget is often going to target one Remoraid and a couple of Magnemites, or if we've already started Magnemite, we're going to get, these 3 sorts of cards. So seeing as though Bridget is sort of returning, it really helps non-EX based decks like this to flood the field, and it gives us a bit of leeway to play this 1-1 Octillery, because we can normally get it going quite early on in the game if we're able to use Bridget. Finally, we are playing 1 Shaymin EX, just helping us set up, basically, more draw in the early turns, get that Magnezone online, and basically start off your strategy. You're just more consistent with the Shaymin. The reason why I don't play any more is, like I say, we're playing mainly non-EXs, and if you just start playing Shaymins, I mean, they're just going to completely ruin that strategy and go for the Shaymins the whole game. Playing 1 is just sort of needed for consistency, just in case you pretty much have a dead hand, but you have Ultra Ball. Search out Shaymin, pretty simple. On to the trainers now. We are playing a couple of Professor's Letter, really nice. We are playing Skyler, so it's searchable energy for a start, which is really nice. And also, 1 card for 2 energy. You're thinning your deck. You're getting new cards for the Magnezone that you can put straight into play. So overall, very good there. Next up, we are playing 2 Trainer's Mail. Trainer's Mail is a really nice deck in Stage 2s, it turns out, because it can help you get the combo pieces for Rare Candy. By that I mean you can find Rare Candy itself, or you can find the Ultra Ball if you have, one of the other 2 pieces. So it helps you get that combo to get the turn 1 Magnezone, which is really nice. We all know it's good as well for searching out supporters and VS Seekers and all that shenanigans. So overall, Trainer's Mail has great value in this deck. Always happy to see that in the hand. Next up, we are playing 3 VS Seeker. Pretty standard, really. I don't feel like we need 4 in here because we have such a high supporter count already. But oftentimes we're going to get back a Fisherman for more energy, or get back a Lysander to try and take an easy prize on a Shaymin or something like that. So VS Seeker pretty helpful there. Next up, we are playing a full 4 Rare Candy. We want to maximize the outs into getting this as early as possible because our whole deck is based around Magnezone, so pretty standard there. Also playing the 4 Ultra Ball, pretty similar thing. We want to get Magnezone going as early as possible. Ultra Ball's the best way of doing that. It is actually Heavy Ball searchable. I've not tried to tech 1 Heavy Ball in there because that would be the only target it could search out. But if you're really worried about the discard, you might want to play 1 Heavy Ball just because we have Skyler. Overall, I think 4 Ultra Ball just super consistent, helping us get into like Shaymin or whatever else we need as well. So, and of course, because we are playing Fisherman, we don't really mind getting rid of some energy early on, so we can Fisherman them back later. So, pretty good there, and the discard isn't normally too painful. For tools, we are playing 2 Hard Charm. I've already said that we're going to try and tank, try and make people really invest in KOing just a non-EX. So, resisting 40 per turn. Essentially, they need 140 for 160, sorry, for a 1-hit knockout. And if they're not 1-hitting, it's going to be a real struggle for them because reducing 40 each turn, and we're also playing Rough Seas, I'll let you know that now, we can really reduce a lot of damage done to this Raikou. So, making it difficult to one-shot. Basically, it's the HP of an EX. And, yeah, they're just getting the 1 prize, so that seems pretty good to me. We're also playing 2 Floatstone. Floatstone's back in the new set, so this is definitely one we want to take advantage of, so that we don't just get catcher stalled on, like, a Magnezone. And, anything in general, just having free retreat throughout the game is going to help us out, so pretty good stuff there. Onto supporters, we are playing a couple of Fishermen. This is the old Fisherman, but it is returning in the new set, so it lets you get 4 basic energy from your discard pile back into the hand. Of course, we can flood them all onto the board if we have Magnezone, so absolutely great there. Recovering once we've lost a Raikou, we can just Fisherman all the energy back and set up another Raikou straight away. It really works nicely. The reason I play 2, I think a lot of people would initially start playing 1, which I initially did do, but because we're not playing battle compressors in here, I feel like having the access to it early is more important. So I think having more outs to Fisherman is helpful. Even if you're just going to Ultra Ball it away early for VS Seeker targets, you need to see this card, obviously, to start hitting it and get VS Seekers going. So unlike most decks where you can get away with just the 1 copy, I feel like 2 is much safer. We are playing 2 Lysander as well. Lysander helping us pick off things if we've, most of the time Raikou is doing 2 shots, at least the way I play it, because you're trying to be conservative and look after resources and play the single prize game and win that way, rather than just going all out Thunderlance for 170 or whatever. You do have the option to do that, but you don't always need to. So Lysander picking off things you've already hit in the face once, and they've retreated out of there. Also, it's going to help you, get around things that are a pain, and also kill stuff like Shaymin and stuff for cheap prizes. We all know why Lysander's good. Next up, we're playing 3 Skyler. Skyler's really going to help out our searching for rare candies and Ultra Balls, so Skyler's a good one to see. Also, it's one that, if your hand is really dead, you can Skyler for a better supporter. You never really like to do that, but it's normally just the combo piece for the rare candies and whatnot. Next up, we are playing 4 Bridget. Bridget is a really nice supporter in this deck. I never thought I'd be playing 4 of this again. It's basically like the old Collector, but it just gives you such a strong start. Getting, this sort of setup on the very first turn is just really good. So, say we started Raikou, 1 Bridget gets you all of this, and you're pretty much set up from there. Like, you just need to find the candy next turn, and then you just start flooding your field of energy. The reason why we play 4, obviously you're not going to need 4 throughout the game, but just seeing it on the opening turn is just, it's so helpful. It really sets this board up fantastically well for you, so we want to max it out to have the options for it. Yeah, Bridget, very nice. From then on, it's basically discard bait, but you don't really mind that because, yeah, you need to keep searching and stuff, so Bridget, very nice overall. Finally, we are playing 4 Sycamore. These should be Sycamores. This is the standard format deck, but because I've got so many builds going on right now, I'm sure you can appreciate seeing Juniper and pretty much just knowing that this is really Sycamore. Discard and draw, is the most powerful we have, so why not play it, really? It's the best refresh. Sometimes, even if you are using Octillery, you can just be clumped with lots of stuff like Bridget and Fisherman when you don't necessarily need them, and a bit of dump and draw can really help us out there. So finally, we are playing those 2 Rough Seas that I talked about earlier. So if people aren't one-hitting Raikou's, Rough Seas just comes into its own. You're healing 30 more damage on top of the resisted damage, and it gets very difficult for decks that like to chip away at you. Stuff like Seismitoad really struggles, because if Rough Seas stays in and you've got that ability is working, my goodness, it's a lot of Quaking Punches to kill a Raikou, even if they are using stuff like Bat Drops and even like Muscle Band and whatnot, but the Rough Seas is so nice for you. Also, yeah, just anything that doesn't do good damage against Raikou is really nice. Like Giratina and Mega Manetric. The Rough Seas is going to stay in play against Mega Man for the most part, so having resisting 40 damage and healing 30 on top of that is so devastating for a Mega Manetric player, because we can easily 2-shot that dude by just overcommitting energy and hitting them, basically. So Rough Seas in those sorts of matchup, absolutely clutch. In other matchups where they are going to be one-hitting you, it's a counter stadium, so playing 2 I feel like is the right number. So finally for energy, we are playing 10 Lightnings, pretty standard. I've opted not to play any of the Flash energy. That could be an option, just because there's so much special energy hate in format right now, with Giratina stopping you playing them straight away, and just enhanced hammers and stuff like that. Didn't really want to deal with it. I don't think Lucario is so big of a threat that you need to play them. Obviously, we are playing these Zapdos instead, so that's my way around it. If you want to play a couple of Flash Energy, I don't think I'd advise more than like 2. It might be an option to go down. But for me, I just want to play super consistent 10 Energy. You want to see them as best as possible all the time. Fishing them back with Magnezone and whatnot, very helpful. So yeah. That's the deck, guys. It's pretty much a really old school build the way I've tried to build this. If you look back at a really old list of Blastoise before it was an Archie build, it'll look very similar to something like this, just because, It's the way to make a Rain Dance deck work, basically. And it's a real throwback to almost like a previous format where you're trying to get this old strategy back up and running. But, you know, it's tried and tested, it's pretty consistent, and in this deck, for a change, it's mainly non-EXs. Like, we've seen Emboar and Blastoise, they're charging up big EX attackers. But here, we're just using Raikous, and it's very difficult to play the prize exchange game with such an inherently strong card that is swinging so hard, and, you know, if they're not being able to one-shot us back, we can get a couple, like, really, really good value out of this guy. So, overall, its typing is great for the most part. Obviously, the threat is Lucario. If you're not being one-shot, it's really, really nice. You are kind of weak to Hex Maniac, but not quite as weak as something like if we were playing the Pikachu EX. In that sort of deck, Pikachu discards the energy, so you need to have the Magnezone the following turn, and that leaves you kind of stranded against Hex. So that's the reason, one of the reasons at least, why I like playing Raikou over it, because if they're going to Lysander kill Magnezone, or if they're going to Hex Maniac, you still have, you know, energy on the board to Thunder Lance the following turn. So tell me what you guys think about this deck. Tell me, guys, what you think about Magnezone in general and Raikou. I do think they're a pretty strong pairing. Some people are saying it's absolute garbage, nothing like Blastoise Keldeo. But in my testing so far, it's been limited, I'm not going to lie, but it is quite a handy deck. And just the fact that this is such a strong non-EX, like, the stats on this guy, give it plus 40 HP, and I wouldn't mind if this was an EX. Like, it would still be a playable EX with, like, 40 or 50 more HP. So, you know, seeing it as a non-EX is very, very respectable. Very, very good stats, ability, and attack as well. So, capitalizing on this is going to be great in general. So, yeah, it's been Joe from OmniPoke, guys, and I'll stick around for some more deck analyses from Breakthrough. I'm going to be churning a few out this week at the very least. So, stick around, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.